We have sound.
We got sound now?
Yeah, we got sound now, but nobody heard what we said before. So, if you're just joining us, we are live and in person for this episode of Jack and Jack. We can physically contact one another. We're not just stuck on computer screens. This dude actually exists. What we've been talking about so far is college football, basically just recapping the games of the SEC teams that lost. Of course, Ole Miss losing to Florida, Alabama losing to Oklahoma. Both of us think Alabama is going to rebound against Auburn this week. And then we were talking a little bit about Texas and Texas A&M. We both have Texas winning that game. Texas is a 5.5-point favorite. We touched on Oregon and Ohio State likely rematching in the Big Ten championship. Ohio State, we both have beating Michigan on Saturday. Both of us also have Oregon beating Washington on Saturday. So with the wins, both of those teams will be in the Big Ten championship. Jack has Oregon winning the Big Ten championship.
What a surprise.
Going unbeaten. I think Ohio State is going to win the Big Ten championship and knock Oregon out of the first round bye. I was just actually asking Jack what he thought Oregon would do if they had a first-round playoff game on their home campus, and he said that they would dominate and they would win. Of course, the college football playoff rankings are coming out right now, so we are finding out who is where, and we can assume probably a lot of the top seeds are the same because, of course, Oregon was on a bye. They didn't play anybody. Georgia, obviously, they're coming off a bye, and they're going to still be at number 2 in the seeding, but Ohio State is still going to be at 2 after their win this past weekend. So that pretty much catches us up to speed. We were talking briefly about Oregon State as well, playing Boise State.
That's going to be an interesting game.
Yeah, that one is 9 a.m. on Friday.
Black Friday.
10 o'clock local time in Boise for the kickoff. Jack has Boise State winning that game. I have Oregon State winning that game by a field goal, 44-41. Jack had Boise State, I think, in a blowout or something.
By 10. They're 38-28.
10.
Not a blowout, but I said they win by 10.
And Jack, that was my same prediction score for Oregon-Washington, I think, right? 38-28. And then Jack's prediction score for Oregon-Washington. Sorry, you'll have to remind me again.
I have it written down. I have like 49 tabs open right now, but I got the Ducks winning that one 44-17. They've been tremendous at Autzen this season. They're undefeated still. I mean, under Dan Lanning, they're 18-1 at home. I believe his overall record is 33-5. So I'll say Oregon wins that one by 20 plus. You know, they win by 27 points, 44-17. They're going to be really motivated and extra ecstatic for the senior night, but it may not be their last game at home because you think that they're going to drop their Big Ten championship game against Ohio State.
It's not
a neutral site.
It's not. I think. I know they're going to drop.
Okay, this is going to be a freezing cold take later. Once the Ducks win that game by, what did I say? I said they were going to beat them by 10.
Yeah, I think so. And I had Ohio State winning 30. I think I had them winning by 10 too. I think I had 31-21. By the way, I mentioned before, Big Ten championship Saturday, December 7th at 5 o'clock on CBS. Boise State will be hosting the Mountain West Championship on Friday, December 6th. That one's at 5 o'clock on FS1. That pretty much catches us up to speed where we are right now.
Blazers.
Just, previewing a little bit of the weekend games. Of course, the big one where College Game Day is going to be is Texas and Texas A&M. And then you have the Iron Bowl, Auburn against Alabama. Of course, you have the new rivalry between Oregon and Washington. You also have Florida State. That's always a good game, good rivalry, even though both teams are not really on the best sides this time. Neither one really is being looked at as a playoff team. Of course, Florida State had a lot of anticipations going into the season, and they lost their first 5 or 6 games in a row or something like that.
I mean, Teacher Ukulele has not been doing well.
Yeah, and I don't think their fan ever ate that dog poop out of the red Solo cup. So that pretty much catches us up to where we are right now. So if you're watching our other video where you didn't have any sound, we would like to apologize. We do have the bars back, so hopefully you are getting sound this time. Jack was just talking about the Blazers. So, Jack, I'm still going to stick with the Blazers suck this year. They're still going to be awful. But what were you saying about the Blazers?
I was just saying that it's been a tough stretch for them. Historically speaking, the Blazers have a lot of injuries, and they have had a lot of injuries. And Chris Murray, he's out. DeAndre Ayton's out. We've known that Ayton's been out for a minute. Simons just returned from injury, and he had a really terrible showing against the Grizzlies, but I think he'll bounce back. He had 5 points in 30 minutes. He was 2 for 14 from the field. The Blazers collectively shot 17.4% from three, and the Grizzlies shot 43% from three. Blazers also made a third of the baskets they took overall, 33% from the field, 33.3%.
Yeah.
So they lost 123-98 on the road, blowout loss against the Grizzlies. Blazers' next game, I believe it's against the Pacers.
By the way, I have not really watched any of the NBA Cup or whatever it's called. That's going to be
That's
going
right,
on.
NBA Cup.
Who is still in that?
So we got let's look this up real quick. So we got the NBA Cup. I think that it's not the termination or the conclusion of the first round yet. Let's check the NBA Cup. So the NBA Cup bracket, you got the quarterfinals still TBD. We have to figure out who's going to win the standings for the NBA Cup. So in Group A, right, the Blazers, they're 1-1, Kings 0-2, Rockets 2-0. Okay. Group B, Lakers, Thunder, Spurs, Suns, Jazz. Group A is Rockets, Clippers, T-Wolves, Blazers, Kings. Group B, Lakers 2-0, Jazz 0-2, and then you get the Thunder, Spurs, and Suns are all 1-1. Then you got the Group C, Warriors undefeated 3-0, Grizzlies 0-2, Mavs 2-1, Pelicans 1-2, just like the Nuggets are 1-2. And then you got a couple more groups. Group East, Group A, Magic and Knicks are 2-0, and then you got East Group B, Bucks and Pistons are atop of that, and then you got East Group C, Hawks and Celtics both 2-1, Cavs 1-1, Bulls 1-1, Wizards 0-2. So we'll have to see how that pans out. But yeah, Blazers hasn't been a good season for them. Overall NBA standings, I'll just give them to you real quickly. Thunder 13-4 this season. What's the biggest shocker for you here in the Western Conference? You got the Thunder, Warriors, Rockets, Lakers, and Grizzlies are the top five. What's the biggest shocker out of those top five in your opinion?
I think the Rockets, because I have not really seen the Rockets as high as that in
a while.
I don't know, like 10 years when they played the Blazers in the playoffs. I think that was the last time I remember the Rockets and the Blazers both being relatively good. Of course, Damian Lillard hitting that three with 9/10 of a second left. That was always a big moment. Ooh, the Celtics are number 2 behind the Cavs.
Yeah, and then you got the Cavs 17-1. Their only loss this season was against the Celtics, ironically enough. But yeah, no, to
Celtics, defending champions. So.
That's right. And they got Peyton Pritchard, former Duck there, and he's been doing well. But no, for the Western Conference, I think the biggest shocker I have to agree is the Rockets. They're 12-6 this year. Blazers 7-11. They're 13th in the West. I mean, everyone expected the Blazers to start off like this. I mean, 7-11 isn't terrible for the first 18 games, but I think that the over-under was like 22.5, 23.5 wins. Vegas had them at. So, last thing I'll say about the NBA, I think that the Warriors and the Lakers, they could go far this year. The Thunder are surprising a lot of people. They got some good young talent. I mean, Jalen Williams has been cooking. He dropped, I think, 30 against the Blazers last week. Cavaliers have been doing really well. Bucks, they're doing okay. They're on a 4-game winning streak, but before that, they were choking. But yeah, I mean, who do you think? Who's your early finals prediction?
Yeah.
Let's ask you that. Early finals prediction.
I was just about to say, we're only about a month into the NBA season. It started back in October, so still plenty of games, still plenty of time to be played. I think the Celtics are going to make another run at the playoffs. I think one team that I told one of my classmates that I think could make, a run in the postseason and perhaps a silent team to win the NBA championship right now. They sit at number 5, the Miami Heat. I think they could make a deep run.
They have a good team
and surprise a lot of people. The West, can you go back to the West real quick? The West is just so, wishy-washy.
It is.
Everything.
It is.
So I think, obviously the Warriors
are
good. The Lakers are good. The Thunder are good. I don't really have much confidence in the Nuggets or the Mavericks or the Spurs.
I think the Nuggets are going to surprise some people. I think that they have some talent.
Obviously, I don't think the Blazers are going to do anything.
For another 3 or 4 years?
No, I don't even think the Blazers are going to get to 30 wins.
No, I definitely don't. Not even, the Vegas, the over-under was like 23.5. I think the Blazers will finish with like maybe 25 wins. I think that they'll say, not 30, not 30.
I was going to say, do you think the Blazers even get to 20 wins?
I think they get to 25 wins. They're not going to even make the playoffs though, for sure.
I'm going to say Miami v Golden State.
Wow, Miami. They haven't been in the Eastern Conference Finals in a while. They haven't even been to the finals in a while. But I'll say, that's not a super hot take that they got Bam Adebayo, Jimmy Butler. They got a Kyle Lowry's what? I want to say he's on the
Who do you-
Sixers now.
Real quick, Jack, who do you have out of the East? I just want to.
Out of the East, I'm going to go with the Celtics. I mean, they have a lot of talent. Jaylen Brown and Tatum are still killers. They got a lot of good young talent. I mean, you got, Peyton Pritchard's been doing well for them.
Who's a surprise team you think that you could make a run either East or West?
I think so my early finals prediction, you said it was what, Heat and who?
Heat and Warriors.
Heat and Warriors. Wow, the Warriors is not a bad take there. I'll say it's going to be Warriors and Celtics. I think it's going to be a repeat of the 2021 finals, but now we got Curry aging a little more. I mean, the Warriors, they got a new team. No Durant, obviously. They had Durant a while ago, but they have Buddy Hield now. That's interesting. I mean, the Celtics, they still have some talent, still have a lot of talent with Jaylen Brown and Tatum and Pritchard. Like I said, I think that a team that's going to make a run is the Nuggets. I think the Nuggets very well could make the finals. I mean, that could be a hot take. Jokic is a beast.
Okay.
And I think that the two teams that could surprise people are the Nuggets and the Bucks. Because if Giannis and Lillard are healthy, they could go far too. But I'll say the Nuggets and the Bucks could make the finals. What do you think?
You want to bet? I will bet you the Heat go further than the Bucks.
I don't know if I can take that bet right now. I mean, we'll have to see.
Or I'll bet you that the Heat go further than the Nuggets.
Wow. I'll make you a bet that the Bucks go further than the Heat. And the bet is a couple slices of pizza. So a couple slices of pizza.
Deal.
Whoever goes further, you saw the handshake right there. I mean, right now the Bucks, they're 6th seed in the Eastern Conference with a record of 8-9. They're on a 4-game win streak. The Heat 7-7, just that 500 record with a 2-game win streak. The Cavs 17-1. The Cavs could win it all this year. They got Evan Mobley, Jarrett Allen, Darius Garland. They have a monster team. But enough about the NBA. I think it could be. It's way too early to tell, really. But let's talk about the NFL. Jackson.
Actually, real quick, I want to touch a little bit on the NHL because we have 2 games on Black Friday, both of which are going to be on TNT. Boston and Pittsburgh is game number 1, and then game number 2, I believe, is Colorado and Vegas. That's tomorrow. So tomorrow you have a doubleheader on TNT, which will be Washington against Tampa Bay. So the Caps taking on the Lightning. Ovechkin was hopefully on his way to breaking Wayne Gretzky's record, and now he's out for the next 6 to 8 weeks with an injury. But Friday, on Black Friday, we have 2 games on TNT. Of course, Pittsburgh, Boston, the first one. Next one is Colorado and Dallas. Both teams very good in the West. They always seem to make the playoffs every year. But one team I want to talk about in particular, Jack, is the Winnipeg Jets. Because the Jets, early on in this first month, have only lost 4 games. They are 17-4 with the best record in both the Western Conference and the entire league. They currently have 36 points. Not 17-4, they're 18-4. So they have 36 points. And the Jets' upcoming schedule looks like they might get a few more wins here as they look to take on in their next matchup the Los Angeles Kings. That should be a pretty easy win because the Kings aren't as good as they used to be. And then they have a tough one at Vegas. So they'll be taking on the Vegas Golden Knights. They always play well in Vegas. But your thoughts on the Winnipeg Jets only having 4 losses?
I mean, as you know, I don't follow the NHL all the time, but 18-4 to start a season that early. I mean, how many games are there in an NHL season? There has to be like what?
Same as the NBA.
Yeah, it's 82. Yeah, I'll say, that's pretty shocking to me. I mean, the Jets, they went pretty far. They were in the playoffs last year, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I think that
they lost in the first round to Colorado.
That's right. And another thing that I want to mention is the Maple Leafs, man. They're 13-6. They're on a 4-game win streak. I got that sticker right there. I mean, Austin Matthews, he's a monster. I got to start following the NHL more, but Matthews, he's had a good year, man.
All you guys need to know is that my Blackhawks suck this year.
Oh, they're not good.
Always.
They're not good.
And the Kraken, too. Although the Kraken have won a couple of games recently. So, they're showing a little bit of promise.
I mean, the Kraken, they're 11-10, but it's early in the season. They got 23 points. They're not doing too well, as you mentioned. But the Blackhawks, they suck a lot more. They're 7-12.
It was kind of depressing last January because I saw the statistic because Chicago, of course, was the first team in the league to be eliminated from the playoffs back last January. So that was a little bit sad knowing that I would not see my Blackhawks after the regular season. Kraken kind of took it up a month later. They were showing promise, and then they were unfortunately eliminated with a loss they had in a game that I think they should have won. I don't remember who they were playing, but they had a lead. gave it up, and I think they went to overtime and lost that game. But just touching on the Winnipeg Jets a little bit more, still have Kyle Connor. I think he's really the only person I know on that team. But I'm always saying that a Canadian team will not win the Stanley Cup. Of course, I had the Panthers beating the Oilers last year. Of course, Montreal is the last Canadian team to win the Cup back in 1993, over 3 decades ago. Jack, do you think right now the Winnipeg Jets have an opportunity? If they keep rolling, they go into the play. If they go into the playoffs as a number 1 seed, the road to the Stanley Cup final goes through Winnipeg. Do you think they have a good shot at winning the Stanley Cup?
I think they have a pretty solid shot, but you also have to, look at other teams. I mean, I think that they are probably going to enter as favorites if they can just keep this tear going. I do think that if you look at the Eastern Conference, the Panthers, Maple Leafs, and Lightning, those are all very good teams. I mean, the Bruins, we know that they're NHL Stanley Cup sleepers. I mean, they're good, right? But they're not as good as the Maple Leafs or like the Devils right now. Or I mean, the Penguins, they've been doing very good. But I'll say that it's either going to be the Maple Leafs, it's going to be the Panthers to repeat, or it's going to be the Jets. One of those 3 teams is going to win. What do you think?
I think it's going to be the Dallas Stars, the Colorado Avalanche, or the
Jets.
Yeah, no, I don't. I don't
go that far.
I don't think a Canadian team will win the Stanley Cup anytime soon again. So I'm going to say it's going to be Colorado or Dallas out of the West. It's going to be either Pittsburgh.
Really?
Yeah, I think Pittsburgh has
crazy
a good
sleeper.
chance. Or
crazy take.
This one might be even crazier.
I mean, you just said that Pittsburgh's going to win the Cup, even though Crosby hasn't been good in a while. And also, the Penguins are at the bottom of the Metro Division with a record of 7-12, and they're on a 3-game losing streak. But like you said,
there's still plenty of time.
We're 19 games into the NHL season. That's about 1/4, considering there's about 82. So they got about 63 more games left to make up for it. So go ahead.
This one might be even crazier.
Let's hear it.
The Detroit Red Wings.
What about them?
I think they might have a chance at a run for the Stanley Cup playoffs.
Wow.
Also, if Washington or if Ovi gets healthy again, I think Washington will have a good chance. Of course, Ovechkin wanting to break Gretzky's record this season. I think it's gonna either happen this season or next season. He's only 30-some goals away, and he was on a roll up until he got injured. So the recovery time for his injury is about 6 to 8 weeks. So
jeez. And he's 39.
Yeah. So he's one of the oldest players in the league. All right, now to the NFL, Jack.
Yep. Let's cap it off with the NFL, and then we'll talk about the recap real quick, and then we'll go into the Thanksgiving preview.
Yeah. So a couple of games to recap from this last week, and of course, the one that had the most wildest ending: Washington and Dallas.
That was
27. It all started
34 to 26. Yeah.
Sorry. It was 27 to 20. Off a touchdown from a special teams return after a muff. The returner ran it back. That gave them the 27 to 20 lead. Washington then tied it on their ensuing drive with under 30 seconds to go with a pass from Jaden Daniels to Terry McLaurin. That brought it to within 1. And then, of course, the extra point was missed.
Infamous miss.
Yeah, it remained 27 to 26. And then, the only reason it ended 34-26, like you said, Jack, is they tried the onside kick, and the Dallas returner just picked it up and ran it into the end zone. So that obviously, my dad and I were watching that live, and actually he told me to look up what the over-under was in that game to see if that screwed with anything. And fortunately it didn't, because they had already surpassed the over. But I'm guessing Mike McCarthy was not very happy that his returner did not just slide down, because it still gave Washington kind of a chance towards the end
to potentially tie it.
Yeah, getting the ball back, because it was still a 1-possession game, even though it was they would have needed a touchdown and a 2-point conversion. But that was just such a crazy game.
Yeah, that was a wild game. I mean, Austin Seibert, the kicker for the Commanders, choked and missed the PAT, but you can't really discredit the Commanders too much. They've had a pretty solid season. Jaden Daniels has shocked everybody, and He's a beast. And then, also it wasn't the best snap, as Joe Davis said in the call. It was a low snap. It was.
Mhm.
And then the holder, the punter, just completely bobbled it, which messed up the kicker's rhythm. But we should also talk about the Chiefs and my Panthers. Panthers lost by 3. I mean, even though the Panthers only lost that game by 3, they're 3-8 this year. Bryce Young, he's been doing better. 21 for 35, 263 yards for 1 touchdown. And the Panthers outscored the Chiefs 11-3 in the fourth quarter.
By the way, for those of you that don't know, Jack has a fantasy football team, and he's awful.
Yeah, I'm awful. No, I'm not terrible. I'm okay this year. My buddy AJ.
Didn't you say you only had 1 win?
No, that's my friend.
Oh,
no. I have a friend that has a couple wins this year. Well, what I said was, I'm surprised that I have this many wins because this season, my buddy AJ, he only has 1 loss.
Wow.
I have a friend that has 1 loss this season.
Shout out AJ.
Shout out to AJ. I'm not sure if he's going to watch this, but anyways, real quick, I'll just show you unfortunately, wasn't able to get you, Cody, or Jake into this year's fantasy pool. But real quick, I'll let you guys know.
Shout out Jake Rowe, Cody Runsville.
Shout out Jake Rowe and Cody. Real quick, I'll go to the standings. So in my league, again, my buddy AJ first. My buddy Owen is 9-3. A couple other guys, they're above me. Right now, I'm tied for 4th place with a record of 7-5. And the people in last 3 place are 3-9. So they're all tied for last place. Hopefully they don't get last place. But yeah, no, I do think that fantasy football is fun, and I don't suck this year. 7-5 is not terrible, but the Panthers, they should have won that game. But you know what, Mahomes, he had a great game.
Yeah, Chiefs will play again on Friday against the Raiders. Raiders did beat them on Christmas last year, so maybe they pull off another upset at Arrowhead on Black Friday. 3 games on Thursday for your Thanksgiving pleasure. It starts at 9:30 with the Bears taking on the Lions, which would be I think it should be a very easy win for Detroit there. And then you have the big game of the day during probably when most people are going to be eating their Thanksgiving dinner
or lunch, whatever it is.
Whatever
you want to call it.
Yeah,
Thanksgiving brunch.
For those of you watching, let us know in the comments. Do you have Thanksgiving lunch or Thanksgiving dinner? My family usually eats around like 3 or 4, so it's kind of a late lunch, early dinner kind of thing. What about you?
Yeah, we usually have a dinner. It's like 3 p.m., 3:30. It's a lunch dinner. It's more of just a lunch, I guess, because sometimes it starts at 1 or 2 p.m. It just depends on the day. So some Thanksgivings I'll have it at 2 p.m. Sometimes we'll have it at 5. Usually it's around 3 p.m. though. I agree.
And of course, the midday game is the one that everyone will be tuned into. That is going to be Giants and Cowboys. You have 2 quarterbacks, Tommy DeVito and Cooper Rush, that'll be going against each other. And they probably will have worse percentages than the other QB that is actually on the call of that game. Tom Brady will be with Kevin Burkhardt, Aaron Andrews, and Tom Rinaldi on Fox. That one will be at 1:30. But how about that quarterback matchup, Jack? Tommy DeVito against Cooper Rush.
Wow, an all-time quarterback matchup with 2 legends. Daniel Jones just got cut, so that's pretty crazy. He didn't have a good season. I'll have to look at his stats. I just know that the Giants right now they're really just, I guess, kind of going into not really. I guess it is rebuild mode after they got, didn't want to re-sign or at least give Saquon a big contract, and now the Eagles have been excelling. But no, I do think that that's going to be a good game. I'll take the Giants in that one. The Cowboys, they're coming off of a dub, but they've had a terrible season.
Cowboys have yet to win a game this season at home, so that will be a fascinating matchup. I think the Cowboys are going to win. I'm actually kind of looking forward to the night game, actually, the third and final game of Thanksgiving. The Miami Dolphins is going to be taking on the Green Bay Packers.
It's going to be a good one.
From Lambeau Field. That one will be at 5 o'clock on NBC. By the way, I don't think I mentioned it earlier. 9:30 on CBS is the Bears-Lions game. That is the first one. 1:30 on Fox is Giants-Cowboys. 5 o'clock on NBC is Dolphins-Packers. That should be an interesting matchup because, as it was pointed out last week, Miami, they've kind of come back a little bit, and Miami is on the verge right now of staying alive in the race for the AFC East. if Buffalo wins Sunday night against San Francisco and Miami loses on Thursday against Green Bay, Buffalo will win the AFC East. But if Miami wins, then they keep their hopes alive to win the division and get into the postseason. Buffalo and San Francisco, of course, that's going to be a great game on Sunday night as well. There's about 6 feet of snow forecasted in Buffalo for that game. So
That is cooked.
it's going to be hopefully fun. Hopefully they don't like reschedule it or anything. Or they did have a playoff game last year that was moved from Sunday to Monday because of the weather. And they didn't have enough time to clear the stadium. But hopefully we get to see a flurry of whiteness on Sunday night. So that should be interesting, Jack. But who do you have Thursday night between the Dolphins and the Packers?
Well, first I'll just get my prediction for. So you got the Cowboys in that game against the Giants to wrap this up. I got Giants winning. Surprisingly, I think their defense is going to go crazy. I think obviously the Lions they were 10-1 on a 9-game win streak. I think the Lions win that one by 17 against the Bears.
Lions can clinch a playoff berth this week. They have to win, and then some other things have to happen as well.
I'll say the Dolphins win this one by 10. I mean, Tyreek Hill's solid. Dolphins have a pretty good offense. I think Dolphins win by 10. I'll go 34-24. What's your prediction?
Well, I'll give you my predictions for all 3 games. I think the Lions win against the Bears. I think they win that one 42-10.
Wow, that's
a big
absolute
blowout.
That's an absolute domination. Just utter domination in that game. Was your prediction?
I think the Cowboys are going to beat the Giants since I believe, according to a recent stat I saw, they've won the last 5 of the 5 of the last 6 matchups against the Giants on Thanksgiving Day. And I think the Cowboys win this one close. I think it's going to be a field goal. Brandon Aubrey's going to win it for the Giants 13-10. Very low scoring. And then I think that the Dolphins are going to win against the Packers too. They're going to keep their hopes in the AFC East alive. Green Bay, of course, coming off that dominant win against San Francisco. But for Green Bay, they sit in second place still, I believe, in the NFC North, still keeping up with Detroit, who defeated them earlier this season at Lambeau. Green Bay and Detroit will meet next Thursday in the Motor City on Thursday Night Football, which should be a very interesting game, divisional matchup between the 2 teams. But I'm going to say Miami defeats Green Bay by a final of 35-27.
What a peculiar scoreline.
Yeah. So I'm going to say 2 home teams and 1 road team win on Thanksgiving. I'm going to say Kansas City defeats Vegas Raiders on Friday. I think they're going to win that game 31-20. They're going to win that one handily. Raiders are not really going to put up much of a fight. Chiefs can also clinch a playoff berth this weekend with a win, and then a couple of other teams would need to lose. So already getting down that late stretch in the NFL season, Jack. I want to ask you again, because I think we touched on this last week in our last recording. By the way,
wasn't able to post that one on accident, but it happens. Because the audio.
Yeah. For those of you, we had a great discussion last week, which was supposed to be our 5th episode, but apparently the audio didn't record. So kind of like this one,
the beginning of the first 2/3 of this one.
Yeah, just kind of the first video on this one, the audio didn't record, but
it happens.
Thankfully, we have the audio here. But we touched on who we think is going to be in the NFL playoff race. I think so. Right now, you have the division leaders in the AFC: the Chiefs, the Bills, the Texans, and then the AFC North. I think is Pittsburgh. So you have, I think so. KC is the 1 seed. Buffalo's 2. Pittsburgh, I think, is 3.
Yeah, they're 8-3. Houston is 7-5 right now.
And then Baltimore's 5. Chargers are 6, and Denver's 7, I believe. So you have 3 of the 4 AFC West teams in the playoff picture right now. So as it looks right now, you would have the Broncos going to Buffalo to take on the Bills. You would have the Chargers taking on the Steelers.
That's going to be good, yeah.
And then you'd have the Ravens taking on the Texans. Which of those 3 games, or rank 1 to 3, Jack, which of those games is most intriguing to least intriguing?
Ravens, Texans, I think it won't be that intriguing just because the Ravens have had a crazy good season. I think they're going to just blow out the Texans. And what was the other one? You said it was Steelers, Chargers?
Steelers, Chargers, and Bills, Broncos.
I think I'll go Steelers Chargers. That one's going to be really close. I think I would have to take the Steelers just because they've had a great season. And even though I like my guy Jay Herbo, but when it comes to the Bills and the Broncos, I mean, the Broncos, they've had a tremendous season. I think they have to be, I want to say, I could be wrong, but 7-5. Let's look this up real quick.
With Bo Nix.
Yeah, with Bo Nix. He's had a great season. Broncos 7-5. They're on a 2-game win streak. I think that the Broncos and the Bills will be, a pretty good matchup, but I don't think that Bo Nix and the Broncos have, enough experience to really beat Josh Allen and the Bills. I mean, they're 9-2. The Bills they're on a 6-game win streak. They're undefeated at home with the 5-0 home record for a reason. I think the Bills could go all the way. But it'll be interesting for sure. I think the Bills will beat the Broncos by something like 17 or something like that. Any more you want to add, or real quick, I'll ask you to wrap this up. What do you think? What's your most?
I want to talk about a couple more things, Jack.
Let's go
but
ahead.
I want to give you my rankings. I do agree with you. I think that the Chargers Steelers is probably going to be the best of those three. I think Ravens Texans is next. Just because Houston can give Baltimore a little bit of trouble. I don't think Denver's going to cause Buffalo any harm. Buffalo is going to win that game handily. That'll be the biggest blowout of the three. So I'm going to go it's Steelers Chargers number 1, Texans Ravens number 2, and Bills Broncos number 3. In the NFC right now, I believe so. Detroit is the 1 seed. And then I think
Eagles 9-2.
Yeah, Eagles are the 2 seed. And then it goes
It's
Atlanta.
a tie between the Seahawks and Atlanta.
So who's 3 right now and 4?
I think that they would have to give the edge to Atlanta because they have a better home record.
Okay, yeah. So Atlanta would be 3, Seattle would be 4,
and then it would be Cardinals,
Arizona 5,
and then Buccaneers. Or no, then Vikings,
and then Minnesota, and then Tampa.
Well, if you're talking about overall rankings, I think that it would be Eagles 1 or Lions 1, Eagles 2, Vikings 3 because they're 9-2, and then the 4th one would be Commanders because they're 7-5, and then it would be
Here we go.
Seahawks,
I have it.
Falcons and Seahawks.
I have it. So actually, Lions 1, Eagles 2, Seahawks 3, Falcons 4, Vikings 5, Packers 6, and Commanders 7. So your matchups would be Washington, Philly, a divisional matchup, Packers, Seahawks, Vikings, Falcons. Rank those 1 to 3.
I'll say you said Eagles and who?
Eagles, Commanders.
Eagles, Commanders has to be number 1 for sure. I think the Eagles will win that one. Not handily, it'll be close.
Well, it's the only divisional game.
Yeah, I think they'll win that one by something like 7 or 10. And then what was the second one? It was Seahawks and Packers?
It's Packers at Seahawks.
Okay, that's going to be number 2. That's going to be really close, I think. But I think the Packers take it. And then the third one was what? Falcons?
Minnesota and Atlanta.
I think I'll take Minnesota in that one. That one's not going to be. That's going to be the third most exciting one because the Vikings, they're really, really, really good this year. They've surprised a lot of people with Sam Darnold, even though Justin Jefferson didn't have that good of a game this past weekend. I think he's going to, show out in the postseason. And I'll say that the Vikings are a sleeper to win the Super Bowl also.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's my ranking. What's yours?
I think Packers Seahawks might be number 1 for me, just to have playoff football in Seattle. Of course, Green Bay and Seattle. One of the more memorable ones I remember was that NFC Championship game that went to overtime, where Russell Wilson hit Jermaine Kearse in the end zone in overtime to win it. And then of course Seattle was down in that game. They scored a couple of touchdowns. They got that onside kick and tied it, forced overtime. So I think that is definitely going to be number 1 for me. Number 2, I think, is going to be Philly and Washington. Like I mentioned before, it's a divisional matchup. It'll be the 3rd meeting between the 2. Philadelphia likely will have won the first 2 meetings, so Washington will be looking for a little bit of revenge. I think Philly is going to win that in a close game, but I would say that is going to be number 2. And then, of course, Minnesota and Atlanta. Atlanta has been a little bit,
hit or miss.
Yeah, they've been kind of in the middle of things this year. Minnesota has been hot. I think they are gonna they're gonna win against the Falcons. So that is where I would rank them. All right, last thing here before we wrap up, I have the college football playoff poll out right now. So I will read you the seeds and where everything stands right now. So the top 4 remain the same. It's Oregon, Texas, Miami, and Boise State. Those are your top 4 seeds. Oregon is number 1 in the poll. Texas is number 3. Miami is 6. Boise State is 11. But because of the different conferences, that's where they seed. Here are your matchups right now. Your 12v5 is Arizona State, Ohio State. Your 6-11 is Indiana and Penn State. That should be a good one. Your 9-8 or your 7-10 is Notre Dame, SMU, and your 8-9 is Georgia, Tennessee.
Jeez.
So that is where they stand right now. The first 2 teams out of the playoff, or the first 2 teams that are out of the playoff, Clemson and Alabama.
Wow. Alabama's going to have to get their stuff together if they want to make the playoffs.
Yeah, Alabama, and they don't have a shot at the SEC championship, so they're really going to have to impress the playoff committee, or one of these seeds is going to have to
Lose a lot.
Yeah, Arizona State will have to lose probably. Tennessee or Georgia would have to lose. So I'm guessing Alabama is rooting for Georgia to lose in the SEC championship game.
Jeez, yeah.
So because you remember Alabama, so if Georgia loses in the SEC championship game, they would also have 3 losses. The edge would be to Alabama because remember, Alabama beat them head to head.
Yeah, that's weird to think about. I mean, Alabama barely beat them, but I mean, it's definitely like times have changed a lot. No more Nick Saban.
Well, I mean, that was a crazy game too because Alabama was just rolling. I mean, they were up 28-0. Georgia came back. You know, they got to within 1 possession. Alabama was able to hold on at the end.
Yep, barely because of what Ryan Williams' touchdown.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jack, I actually have one more thing that I want to tell you about. The FCS bracket is out right now, and playoff football is returning to the Kibbie Dome. The Idaho Vandals will be playing at home on December 7th. So that is going to be a fun environment in Moscow. Of course, Jack doesn't really care much about the Vandals, but I do. I care about my Idaho Vandals. Looking at the playoff picture right now. So right now, according to the FCS bracket that came out yesterday or 2 days ago on Sunday, Idaho will play the winner of Richmond and Lehigh. So that should be a win for us. And if we win, we'll likely get our conference bow in Montana State. So just mentioning that real quick, some FCS playoffs. But Jack, do you have anything else more for this episode? Our first to be in person before we wrap things up.
Last thing I want to say, you know, this has been a pleasure. It's been by far our longest podcast session. I think that, you know, when you're in person, it's a much different vibe. And, you know, when you're like online, it's a lot more like concise and you got classes to go to and stuff. So
I think this is as long as our first episode because our first episode
was long, but
our first episode was like an hour.
Oh, I didn't really realize that. But anyways, last thing I'll say is, you know, it's been fun to be on here. We had a phenomenal talk about, you know, all these sports, and it's been great. And, you know, happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Yeah. Well, happy Thanksgiving to you, my friend.
Yeah, happy Thanksgiving to you too, man, and your family.
Hopefully this will not be our only in-person episode of
the year.
Yeah, of this year. Of course, you know, we have a chance of winter break. Maybe even later this week, after all the college football on Saturday, maybe we record once again, maybe late Sunday morning, figure that out, or, you know, we'll be back to virtual next week. But of course, you know, even if it doesn't work out, within this week, you know, there's always winter break and then there will be spring break later. Although technically calendar wise, that'll be next year, but still, you know, academic wise,
you'll be on a break.
It'll still be this year.
While I'm still trying to find a full-time job.
Yeah. But Jack, best of luck to you to finding a job. It was good to see you again this week. It's good to have you on once again. It was good to be with you in person. And once again, hope you and your family have a happy Thanksgiving.
You too, man. Go Blazers and Ducks.
All right. That will wrap things up here for Jack and Jack, episode number 5, technically episode 6, because episode 5 was recorded last week. We just didn't have the audio.
Right.
But hopefully you enjoyed this episode, and hopefully we brought you a lot of great information. Stay tuned for all the great games this weekend in college football, the NFL, NBA, NHL, and just all around sports. You know, it's a great time of year, isn't it, Jack?
It is. We got all these sports going on, man. You know how it is.
Yeah. So, you know, make sure for those of you sporty nerds out there
that are new,
keep up on it, and we'll talk to you again, or we'll be with you again soon.
Yeah. Thanks for tuning in. See you guys. All right. And you have to like edit out